Hello once again, it's Matthew here from Matthewnorthmusic. Thank you for watching my latest video. And as ever on these videos, if you're interested in the sort of stuff I make videos about, which is mostly either music or retro technology, usually music-based retro technology, but not exclusively, or maybe you might even like some of the music I create, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel to grow. And if you find any of these videos interesting, please share them on social media, and indeed follow me on social media on Matthewnorthmusic on Facebook and Instagram, and they're where I mostly post stuff, mostly on Facebook though, to be fair. Anyway, today's video is a follow-on from the last video I did about the Amstrad PC3086. Now, this was the first PC computer that I ever owned, and I've managed to find another one at the end of last year. And at the end of the last video, we got to the point where the machine was running, but I couldn't actually copy data to and fro the machine using fast links, which is the way of connecting an old computer to a modern computer using serial data connection. Now, I had a few ideas, and this video is going to carry on from what I've done. Some things worked, some things didn't work. But what we'll do is we'll just follow through what I've done, and at the end of the video you'll see where I've got up to on this project. As I'm in the middle of editing this and I'm being really lazy, I just wanted to add something. The first thought I had was, if the serial data isn't working, then I would use parallel. So I ordered up a USB to parallel adapter. But then I also needed to make a little adapter connector as well, which is where we go now into the shed. Now, very quickly, I bought one of these mini gender changers. It said D sub to D sub, male to male adapter. And I thought, well, that'll do. That'll just convert one to the other. However, with a parallel cable, as with a serial cable, you've got to do a bit of flip-flopping of the wiring, because you're not going pin to pin. It's not like a jack socket, for example. So what I've had to do is I've bought two of these. These are just ordinary 25 pin D-type connectors, and I'm going to wire them together. Now, how I wire them together will be based on this. I've just got a little chart here that lists pin for pin where we connect, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wires to connect, so it's not very much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the wires fairly short, with the idea that I can use some standoffs or something, and I can maybe actually just make an adapter. So what I'm going to do is wire this thing up. Now, one thing that's annoying with these sort of fairly cheap connectors is that the pins, normally they're actually written on there, the pin numbers, but on here they're not. So I'm just using this little chart. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's that way round or if it's that way round that the pins are numbered. So I'm just going to try and find another picture that's a bit more detailed. And actually, bizarrely, this D connector, this adapter, does have the pins numbered, and it does say that the pin at the top here is pin number 1. So yeah, here we've got pin 1 at the top here. So if I turn this round the other way, then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down here. So that's what I'll use to measure it all out. And I've actually managed just to fit the two connectors into the vise, so you know, pin 1 there, etc. So that should just make it fairly easy for soldering the two together. And what I shall do, I shall wire the secondary wires first and then hook them over to the primary side. And then the idea is that I will be able to flip this around and put some standoffs in, and then it'll be like an adapter. Well then, it's not the most elegant of connectors, but if it does the job, then I'll be happy. Let's go give it a test. Now, unfortunately, I could not get this parallel adapter cable to work. It just wouldn't be recognised on any of my machines, whether it was the Windows 10 or 11 machine. So this and the adapter that I made, of which I had to disconnect the nuts and bolts because it wouldn't quite fit in the slot, sadly that wouldn't work. Now, what I could do at some point is, on one of my XP machines that does have a parallel socket, is to just make a parallel to parallel connector and try that out. But at the moment, even though it takes a little while, serial seems to be fine, so I'm just going to stick with this. Here then is the Amstrad PC, and I've got some software that I've managed to load into the machine running. Now this is the DOS version of the FastLinks program, which is a way of connecting two computers together for file transfer, either using the serial port or the parallel port. Now last time I set this up, I was having trouble not being able to upload anything. Now I've got the full version on here, and this has a diagnostic mode, which is actually quite handy. Now if I go down to the diagnostic mode and switch to the COM port, you can see at the moment it's sending out data but it's not receiving any. Now if I go to the main PC, I can now go to the diagnostics on here, serial COM port, and it's actually COM3 because I'm using the USB adapter start test. And if we now look at the computer on the Amstrad, it's running very fast, but you can see it is receiving data, and if I stop this, then it's stopped receiving data. I mean, it's all gibberish because it's all been running very fast, but it is receiving data. However, if I then run the diagnostics on here again, on the PC it's not receiving anything at all. Now, because this was sending data and it wasn't being received, but it was kind of receiving data, and I was able to use the serial cable to upload the controller, then the problem with this computer is that the serial interface, for whatever reason, is not transmitting data properly. Now, this could be a bad solder joint, it could be a mucky connector, but I have since cleaned all of that and checked it all over, and the connector seems absolutely fine. However, as of yet, I don't want to start ripping this computer to the bits and messing around with a soldering iron. So what I intend to do is this. I was able to buy this for the princely sum of £10 on eBay, including delivery, and it's an ISA serial card. Now I think it is set up to have 2 ports, but you have to add extra components. However, it was sold as working and it's been tested. Hopefully I won't need to adjust any of these dip switches because hopefully it's already been preset. And also I've looked on the internet and I can't actually find any documentation about this serial card, although I didn't look that hard, to be honest. But anyway, if we take this card and put it into the machine, fingers crossed we might actually get somewhere. Anyhow, we come out of FastLinks by hitting escape, exit, then we type in park to park the heads, and then the machine's ready to switch off. And we can whip the lid off and have a look inside. Now there's various links on this board. There's links here, there's links here, there's links all over the place. And there's a good little website on the internet that's got a list of what all the links do and what all the jumpers do. Now the one we're concerned with here is link 7 there. Now if I put a jumper on that one, what that will do is it's going to disable the onboard serial data, so that the onboard serial card's gone. And that means all I've got to do is take off one of these covers, which I suspect probably has never been taken off before, and reinsert the serial card. Now, if the serial interface is dead, there's a number of reasons that could have killed it. But if it is dead, I think the high chance it could be is that this computer at some point, because of some of the software that's been installed, was connected via a modem. Now, if there'd been a problem with the modem or the phone line or, you know, thunderstorm, that sort of thing, that may well have sent something nasty down the phone line, which could have then gone through the modem, blown up the modem, and possibly blown up the serial port on the computer. So that would be my guess. Anyway, we're gonna pop this back in. I'm not going to stick the cover back on yet because I just want to do some tests. So we're not going to hear it beep or anything, but we'll stick the power on and see what happens. Okay, well the sun is really bright on the screen, but hopefully you can see here it's showing a COM1 port there under the device section. So we're going to fire up FastLinks again now and see what happens. And nothing's happening yet. So let's go into diagnostics. And it's receiving data and it's sending data. So let's go into the diagnostics setting on here. and it's doing the same. So maybe the actual serial port that was in there was working correctly after all. It's just some inadequacy with the software. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of this. Yeah, you see it's trying to talk to it, but it's not quite right. So we need to look at some more settings on here. Let me just stop this. Ah, right, okay. It's now connected. For whatever reason it wasn't working for, it's now all here. It's all now working. So what I'm going to do is I've got a directory here called Amstrad Backup. So the first thing I'm going to do is take everything from the root directory and I'm going to copy it to the backup. Source file doesn't exist. Transfer all. This is going to take a while, but all being well, I should now be able to back up the entire computer. Well, as you can see, I've actually sped up the modem setting to the fastest it will go, which is 115/200, and it seems to be connecting absolutely fine at that speed. I'm now going to copy across the rest of the files, and hopefully this should now run a bit quicker than how it was before. Okay, so bit by bit I've now copied across everything that was on the root directory. So the next thing I'm going to do is everything here that's in these folders I'm now going to transfer to the machine. And once this machine is backed up, it means then whatever I do to the Amstrad, I've got a copy of everything, and I'll probably also make a couple of backups of this on different drives just so that I've got it all in various places. So let's just drag all this across now. Transfer all, and just let this run. Well, that didn't take too long. I have now got the entire Amstrad PC backed up. So what am I doing now? Well, on my original Amstrad, I was running DOS 5 because one of my college friends had a copy of it. And I thought, well, I want to keep this period correct to how I used to have this machine. So I'm now copying all the installation files for the DOS 5 upgrade into a separate folder onto the Amstrad. Now for some reason this time round, when I was running it at the faster speed, it wasn't too happy taking files. Now it might well be that the machine is quite happy outputting data at a fast speed, but it's not happy at taking in data at a fast speed, possibly because it takes more processing. So I've got it running at the 57600 speed, whether that is bold. Yeah, 57. So it's about the same kind of speed of a dial-up modem would have been in the 90s. Anyway, it's all gradually copying across, and once it's all copied across, I can then install it, and then I'll erase everything that's in that little folder, and then I can copy across other software that I want to use. Well then, all of the DOS 5 upgrade files have now loaded in. So if I now go to that folder, and I think there's a setup program, and there we go. Microsoft MS-DOS version 5. I have not loaded this into a computer for well over 30 years. So let's see if this works. Now what's interesting, actually, this did force me to put in a floppy disk for the uninstall, and I've actually put in a 1.4 meg disk, and it seems to accept that fine. So obviously the sensors aren't in the 720 drive to determine between the two disk sizes. So hopefully I'll just use this just to pretend that the drive is what it is, and it'll just wipe everything and do what it does. Getting back to this then, I bought this off eBay the other day. It came from a guy in Greece, I think it was, and it's an Amstrad to USB mouse adapter. So there's USB there, and there's our 9-pin Amstrad connector. There's a chip on the bottom here, and you can see someone's actually soldered it and hand built this. But this is designed for the earlier range of Amstrad PCs, but from what I can understand, the Amstrad mouse didn't vary until they got into the sort of 486 machines that they made, when they used more sort of standard PS2 type mouse. So I'm hoping that with the correct mouse driver installed, that I will be able to use a mouse on this Amstrad like I did originally. Okay, well this is great. We've now got DOS 5 installed. It's asking me to remove any floppy disks. So I'll take that one out and then press enter to start in DOS 5. So let's see what happens. Okay, well I actually just turned the power off and restarted, and now it's all working fine. So if I type in edit, we should get the older DOS text editor, which is, there we go. And this was the program I used so much in the early days because I didn't have a proper word processor. I just used the text editor and it was great. So yeah, this is really good. So let's exit this. Right then, I found this really rather useful website called Retro Isle, and it had the Amstrad mouse driver that is designed to go with the PC1512 and 1640 and 2086. Now, as mine's the 3086, which is virtually the same machine, I thought I'd try it. And to cut a long story short, I fast linked it over and it appears to work. So if I now open up the DOS text editor, you can see that the mouse is now working. So yes, I now have a mouse working on the Amstrad, which is terrific, because it's going to make life a lot easier for when I start loading in music software. And also it means the serial port can be kept just for hooking up to the big PC for loading software in and out. Just before I take the cover off the computer, here's something that may or may not bring back a load of nostalgia. This is MS-DOS Shell. Now, if you don't remember MS-DOS Shell, it was really the first kind of visual interface for MS-DOS. What was really interesting is it works a bit like Windows, if you like, for looking at files. So we've got our 2 floppy drives, and you've got options on here, show information, display, colors, all that. Then you've got the way you view files and the tree structure. But then you can also format disks and various other things with this system. And then you've got the main programs down here, like Command Prompt Editor and Quick Basic, of which the DOS text editor is actually part of Quick Basic. So enter the name of the file, or edit the opening file, press enter. So just press enter, and that neatly opens up the old MS-DOS editor. Although it does actually take slightly longer to load because you've already got DOS Shell running in memory. But there it is. And then I think if you exit this, it should take you back to DOS Shell. And it was just a nicer way of doing things. You know, for example, if I pick a file at random like this one, I think on there you can go File, and you can copy it, and then you type in a new location, and then you can save it to somewhere else. And you know, it's a nice layout. I mean, it's not really of much use, to be honest, particularly if you know how DOS works. But at the time, it was really exciting because it was something you used a mouse with, and you know, it was just exciting, really. But yeah, good bit of fun, the old DOS shell. But because of Windows and things coming in later, once you got to operating systems like DOS 622, which is very much there for Windows, they didn't bother because you didn't need it, because everyone used File Explorer instead on Windows. Anyway, let's park the heads, turn the computer off, and we'll take it apart and we'll put in our other sound card, namely this one, and see if this works with this computer. Okay, we're booting up now, and we should see something on the screen saying what's working, what isn't. So there's our mouse driver, but it's saying here no Sound Blaster plug and play card found. Now, this could be for one of two reasons, really. It could either be because it's in the wrong slot, or I might actually have the wrong card in there, because as I mentioned earlier, well, I think I did, I actually have two of these Sound Blaster plug and play cards, and one is different to the other. And a quick interjection, these other ISA sound cards that I mentioned, including this rusty one that I think I may have referred to as being 8-bit when it's actually 16-bit. Neither of these are actually sound blasters. This one's an Opti and this one's a Yamaha, or it's got a Yamaha chip on it anyway, so neither of these are sound blaster compatible, so they wouldn't have been a lot of use, but they'll probably end up being used in something else at some point, although they do have sound blaster compatible game port on them for going for MIDI, but not sound blasters. It's recognised the sound card, so this sound card no good, that sound card good. So this is brilliant news. So that means I can now copy across Cakewalk and I should be able to do some music on this. But the fact everything else is there, this is all good news. So I can finally put the cover back on the PC one more time for now. Now I've copied across everything from Cakewalk, including things like the MIDI port file, which is the file you have to rename from a list of possible driver files for the sound card, because that's the same as before. But what you have to do first time you run it is type in Cakewalk-S for setup. And hopefully this should load up Cakewalk via its setup. Now, it will take quite a long time to load because it always did on the other XT machine. There we go. 3, MIDI interface setup. And I think that's correct, but Sound Blaster MIDI only, no sounds. Okay. C, start Cakewalk. And there we go. And it's nice to see it in colour as well, because obviously it was only ever in black and white when I had it before. Now if I go into, if I grab my, oh, my mouse isn't plugged in, that's annoying. If I go Alt, was it Shift file? I can't remember now. Is it Control F? Shift F? Alt F? Yeah, Alt F, open. I'm sure I had one called Test, or Row Rock, that'll do. And then if I go P, and it seems to be playing, so it should be playing through the MIDI output. So what I need to do now is I'm going to put the computer back together. I'm then going to plug in a MIDI cable and we'll plug in a keyboard and we'll see if we can get this to do some sequencing. Right, the cover's back on the computer now, and I'm going to make some notes here. So the base I/O is 220 hex. The MIDI port is 330 hex, and the IRQ is 5. So I will need these for Cakewalk. So if I now go CD Cakewalk and then go Cakewalk/S, we will wait a very, very long time, but then we'll get our setup menu and then we can update the information about the sound cards, because I think the default was actually wrong. But then hopefully we might get some sound out of this via MIDI. Okay, so MIDI interface setup number 3. IRQ is 5, base port address 220. No, that is correct. So I shouldn't need to change anything on there. Press return when done to the main menu. And let's fire Cakewalk up and let's get something that can actually make some sound. Now, just to test, I've got this old Yamaha Portasound MIDI keyboard thing. Nothing amazing, but you know, it should work. So I'm going to load something up and see if it will play. And also it's nice having a mouse that works. So we'll go File, Open. There's a thing called Demo. Let's load up the demo and see what... Go play. Right. Because this thing's got some kind of auto accompaniment, it's firing off the auto accompaniment, which we don't really want. So if I try and turn off all of it, let's see if it works now. There we go. So yeah, it's basically, that is playing out, no problem at all. So we'll see if we can record something now. So if I go File, New, and let's go into View, Measures, and let's see if I can record something. Now if we go back to the wind and play it, no, we're getting nothing. So it's not receiving MIDI properly. Now I've got a funny feeling this could be to do with the mapping. I remember there was something I had to change before, so I'm going to just go into settings, MIDI in. So whatever that did. So settings, MIDI through. No, if I turn MIDI through off, then it won't echo. Then we go settings, MIDI out. Turn off song position pointer, that'll stop the auto thing. Then go OK. Now will this work if we go into record? No, we're getting nothing. It's not recording in anything. Now, I'm going to have a fiddle with the settings, but I'm sure there was something I had to do on this before. We have update. What I had to do, I changed the interrupt request on the driver and on the Sound Blaster setup. So I changed it from 5 to 7. That's both on the DOS driver and on this. Now if I go into record, that'll do. Now it's saying keep take. Yes, please. Now if we play it back, it's now working. It's now recording. So we have now got the Amstrad working as a sequencer. There's one addition to the Amstrad PC to make it completely authentic to how my computer was when I was 19, and that is the contents of this box. So let's get it open. Now I've done a video before about this, but the video I did wasn't quite the same, whereas this hopefully should be absolutely identical to what I had. So let's get this open. Nice big box, and yeah, this does look exactly like the box I carried from a computer shop in Exeter all those years ago in 1992. And this is the Citizen 120D Plus dot matrix printer, and this was the exact printer that I had with my Amstrad at the time. So if we get rid of this big box here, and let's have a look inside. And I do remember this being like this when I bought it, having this, like, you know, carry case. If I just tip it back a bit so you can see it a bit better. And it did have like this like carry case. I do remember carrying it like that from the computer shop. These things you remember. And inside, well, we've got a tractor feeder for you know, a concertina paper, or whatever you like to call it. We've then got, you can see the printer inside. We've got our manual, so there's our original manual. There's our thing that we slide in the back to put paper in, which the other one of these printers I've got I don't think has got. And here's our printer. There's a little yeah, this lid bit here is broken, and I think there's a missing spring as well somewhere, but there's our ribbon, but apparently it is all working, so we'll soon find out whether it is or not in a minute. And here we've also got a Centronics printer cable, so we could get all this hooked up and see if it works. Here's our printer setup, and I popped a piece of paper in. Let's move that a little bit forward, I think. And if I press form feed, might need a little push, or put it in a funny angle. Let's take it out. Let's do it again. There we go. And that's ready to print. Okay, there's the first two lines of the first song I ever wrote. And I remember I typed these words on this computer and printed it on this printer. So if I now go File, Print, Complete, put the printer online so it says ready, and press OK. See what happens. And there we go. Oh, a little bit wobbly coming out there. I could probably do with cleaning it. It's very, very faded, but it's there, it's printed. Okay, as you can see, the computer's in bits again. I've literally been pulling my hair out over this. Now, I've tried the sound card in different slots. I've also tried it with different different IRQ addresses. I've even taken out the serial data card to see if there was any conflicts. Nothing at all. What seems to be the problem is, if I take something that's already been sequenced, so I've got the little tune that I did when I did this on the other XT machine, and I've got this plugged in to some stuff on the rack, namely this Boss drum machine and the Proteus, and I've just got random sounds selected. The drum machine's also got its own synth sounds on, and they're kind of doubled up, but you'll kind of get the impression what's going on. And if I go to hit play, I mean, nothing's mixed or anything, but you're hearing it is playing sounds okay, and it's kind of working. However, if I go to the keyboard and I pick a sound, maybe whatever's on this one here, as I go to play notes, not all the notes are playing, notes are hanging. And only by tapping the spacebar can I stop that. It's also doing some really weird things. If you look at the Proteus, when I'm on, say, channel 1, for example, and I start playing notes, you can see it's randomly changing the patches, which it also shouldn't be doing. So we've got some real issue with MIDI in. Now, with MIDI in before, I was having trouble with the IRQs. I couldn't record or do anything without changing the IRQs. Now, I was on IRQ 5, which I know clashes with the hard disk. So I switched it to IRQ 7. That seemed to work, but again, I was getting these hanging notes and stuff. I'm now on IRQ 2, which I don't believe is conflicting with anything else. Again, I'm still having errors and problems. So I don't know. Is it the computer? Is it the configuration? Is it the cable? Because it could be the Creative Labs MIDI cable. I doubt it, and I'm going to try a different cable. I'm also going to try this cable on my 486 machine that's got Cakewalk running, just to see if that's the problem. And if it is, then that's an easy fix. If it isn't, then I'm kind of a bit stuck. As I said, you know, this sound card I'm using isn't an 8-bit sound card, it's a 16-bit sound card, but it worked perfectly fine on the other XT machine. Now, the other rabbit hole I suppose I've got to go down at some point is to take out the hard disk or switch it off, then start using the compact flash as a hard drive, see if that works. There's still maybe some kind of conflict. I don't know. I don't think so. Because as I say, the playback's fine and it is working, it's just not working properly. So we need to have a little bit more of an investigation on it. But otherwise, it is kind of working, but it is disappointing I've got this far where everything else is working except the main thing that I wanted to do with it. But hopefully we'll find a way of getting there. There's a few other things I want to do with this machine. A few other ideas I've had, which will make another video. But as it is for now, we're kind of left as it is. So thank you for watching, and hopefully catch you on the next one.